Welcome to Indie 5 after a little bit of break. This time we obviously have some indie releases that are this time more older than usual, but make no mistake, it's still metal that we are covering here on Rauta, or us, we, me. Well, whatever. Let's start with a Finnish self-financed CD. This is a band called Eiwitus, which, to be honest, translates to fuck no in English, but it's a little bit, it's not 100% accurate with this type of, not typography, but you would write it a little bit different, but when you pronounce it, it's exactly the same. This is called Unwelcome Fate, and it's supposed to be a full-length album whatsoever. This is a CD release, and since it's just, self-financed thing, this is kind of a closer to a lengthy demo than so much a typical CD release. Well, anyway, here is the booklet with all the lyrics, band member images and whatnot. This is a few years old band that so far has put out only self-financed ones. Started as a three-man band, it's now 5 members all in all, and well, the style is kind of a melodic death metal. Kind of to the very point of this subgenre, that is lots of melodic metal influences, but also kind of a death metal type of ideas, speed riffs and growling vocals, and these two are kind of blended in. One might say this is a kind of a memory lane trip to a mid-90s, the Swedish style, but to be honest, this is maybe a little bit closer to what Amon Amarth is doing, except that this is clearly not as good. Still, I could say this band is very much in the demo phase. You know, the songwriting is very mediocre, and so is the production, and while the growling parts and, playing the instruments is just no complaints whatsoever, it seems that these guys are nowhere near to actually go for a label type of an album release. They have the potential to become one, but with this Unwelcome Fate, everything is just way too mediocre to make a big difference. So unless you are a hardcore melodic death metal fan, why don't you just wait a little bit more for this band to become something better? Then we move to totally different direction. This one is from Italy. It's called Mistheria, and the album in question is Gemini. As you can see, there's a guy or guys playing keyboards and guitar, and that is exactly what this is all about. Basically, this sole member of the band, well, not the only member exactly, but carrying his name anyway, is exactly Mr. Mistheria. And here is a kind of a collection of images of this band with some guest or session musicians. And here's the full list of all the members on this album. As you can see, they're pretty known names such as Steve DiGiorgio of Sadus, Seth, Testament, and so forth, and as well as Chris Caffrey, mostly known for his work in Sabotage. And then this track list, obviously. I mean, as you can see, some of these tracks are not by the band itself, but kind of adaptations of classical tracks now made with metal instruments. Mistheria is a man with some huge amount of bands, huge amount of releases. What was mentioned in the promo sheet that he has played in more than 70 releases, 70 albums, I guess. And, well, as such, kind of a solo project. It's fully instrumental. This is 60 minutes of instrumental music with guitars, keyboards, drums, and whatnot. Now, it's kind of a neoclassical metal, instrumental wise that is. Some of the tracks remind me of Therion, some of these just remind me of some other bands going with kind of a classical ways, creating the music with just keyboards and guitars and drums and bass. But one key element is missing to make this actually really worthwhile listening to, and that is vocals. Now I understand this from the kind of a therapy kind of project or kind of ego project. I understand from that perspective that this is something you just want to do out of, you know, out of the sheer fun of making music and playing those different kind of compositions. But this is not the type of music that is to conquer, you know, stadiums with huge audiences. This is not the type of release one would do in order to sell 1 million copies. Very marginal kind of stuff, maybe for fans of Yngwie Malmsteen and stuff like that. So kind of a classic, kind of a instrumental porn, but not for the mainstream audience. It's not extreme metal by any sense. It's more of a kind of a classic stuff. Well, an actual classical music, orchestrated and whatnot, rather than basic metal release. But for those of really acquired taste and marginal taste as well, well, why don't you give it a chance? Not really my cup of tea, but it's very pro-done, so why the hell not? Give it a go if you think it's your cup of tea. Third album of this Indie 5 is from Sweden. This is called Voodus. Voodus? Anyway, this is their first album under this moniker. This band used to work under the name of Jormungand moniker for about 10 years, and since 2015 they have gone with this Voodus name. Now this is actually re-released in 2016. The original copy of NightQueen was released on tape only in 2015. So Heathen Tribes, small label from Greece, actually did it. This is on CDR, both a normal CD as well as this nice looking digipack, and this actually has a 5th track as a bonus one. Now this is some 36 minutes or so of Swedish black metal, kind of a melodic, but at the same time also very dissonant at some points. Lengthy tracks, I must tell you, some of being them like 8-10 minutes, and as such it's a little bit kind of hard to come by to be, you know, really enjoyable and all stuff. So I might say there are some ingredients from Vatine and the like, while some of these are just clearly more like this kind of third wave, dissonant, multi-layered black metal. So not your typical release in so many ways. Clearly the band is already showing lots of potential with this one, but I must say that the brief one listening time, one spin I had with the first album that came in November 2018, still waiting hopefully a real review copy to arrive. Well, that is a lot better than this one. This is a nice way to get to this, you know, get to know the band. It's already in Bandcamp obviously, but it's not as good as the newer material. So if you have heard the newer one, embrace yourself for a little bit of disappointment. Then again, if you started with this one, or you're gonna start with this one, well, you're in for a good treat. Swedish black metal with lots of potential, but not more than that. Not yet, with this one anyway. Second to the last one is a United States band called Crucial Fix. The interesting thing with this particular band, and especially the name, is that there are actually two Crucial Fix bands from the United States of America. Curiously enough, both are from the 90s and both are of crossover thrash. The one being from California, this is the one from the United States, city called New York City. Brain malfunctioning, warning here. So this is a CDR reprint of this album that was already recorded in 1990s. I think the actual year is 1994. This was released in 2015 as tape, then 2016 as this CDR, which I got a little bit late. Now pay attention, this must be one of the ugliest or cheapest covers to ever exist in metal music. I don't know what the guys were thinking of, but to be honest, this wouldn't be able to sell me anything even if I got paid, or maybe in that case. Anyhow, the music is crossover thrash. Let's start with this one. basically, this 1994 was a year when, Metallica, Slayer, Megadeth, Anthrax, they have been all going to different directions by that time. And thrash metal was kind of in turmoil, almost dead by the time. So crossover thrash were there, obviously, to fight genres such as death metal, but also grunge and all that stuff. Now, some of the ideas with Crucial Fix are just right in place. They're decent thrash riffs, clean vocals and whatnot, but then again, it's also way too much crossover to be really good an album. That said, there are lots of bad ideas, lots of not so good ways to actually, do a decent album. Sound-wise, it's very demo-ish. It's very clear that this band is just learning to take the first steps, and I'm not surprised really that this didn't, or let's put it this way, I'm not surprised this never reached radar or whatever the case might be. Don't know if there is more releases with this moniker, with this particular band. Crucial Fix isn't exactly anything else but a curiosity bottled in a, bottle called CDR. To be honest, there is no reason, in my opinion, to check this out unless you're really a crossover thrash fanatic. Kind of a relic that didn't need to be dug up, whatever. The last but not least is actually probably the best album in this Indie 5. This one comes from Finland. It's called Cadaveric Incubator with their debut album Sermons of the Devouring Dead. This is brutal death metal, meaning gore grind. It's very violent. It's very kind of a grim. It's brutal, and it's kind of a gory. As you can see, this is very simple in layout. There are no lyrics, just band pictures, band member pictures. Three of these guys already. Everybody has a lot of experience in various little bands. This band has been here since 2004 or something along those lines, but still, their first album is this one that actually came out in late 2017. Yes, and to this day they haven't yet released a new album. Mostly just mini albums, EPs, whatever. So musically, this is just very gory stuff. In the same way as, basically Cannabis Corpse. No, more like Cannibal Corpse, and then again, of course, early Carcass and whatnot. This is not an original album as such. It's 12 tracks, which totally, in total are like 29 minutes, so very simple, 2-3 minute songs, and then it's just brutality all the way down. Nothing here is a kind of a gimmick kind of trick. There's nothing original as such. It's just brutal beating. Some parts are faster, some are mid-tempo, and in my opinion, as mid-tempo songs, this band works way more better. It's kind of low-tuned guitars, very simple death metal gore riffs, really beyond the great type of growly vocals, which just complement the songs nicely. And the production is pretty nice too. Maybe it's a little bit too muddy for some people, but then again, it's the name of the game anyway, so not to complaining anyways. But is Cadaveric Incubator a nice addition to your record collection? Yes, if you are into gore, death metal, grind stuff. But if you're one of those cherry pickers, you just want to pick the nice things for your collection, you just want the creme de la creme and nothing else from the genre, then maybe this might be the album you need to pass. But, as always, I totally suggest you to check out the sample that goes with all the bands in this video. Should be links below. If not, then you have to do your Google up digging. But Cadaveric Incubator, definitely one of the best albums on this Indie 5. So with that information, do what you will. And as always, looking forward to your comments and opinions about these albums in this episode. See you soon, and until that, stay brutal, stay metal, and drink heavy.